I need to tell you something. It's very serious.
You can't tell anyone this. Everybody's lives will be ruined.
But you promised.
Everyone screamed when the pastor's daughter fell and shouted in pain in front of the whole church. The sound stopped the singing. All eyes turned toward the pulpit. There she was, the pastor's daughter, collapsing to the floor. She held her stomach tight and cried out, "It's coming! I can't hold it!" People gasped. Some screamed. Some ran forward to help. Others fainted, their bodies falling to the floor. The ushers pushed through the crowd, trying to make space. Mothers covered their mouths, whispering prayers. Men shouted, "Call a nurse, call a doctor, someone help her." No one had ever seen anything like this in the church before. The popular church worker, who everyone trusted, froze for a moment. His eyes were wide, but he kept his calm, stepping carefully toward her. The congregation parted like the sea as he got closer, trying to figure out what to do first. The pastor stood frozen, looking from the floor to his daughter, then back to the people. His hands shook. Should he stop preaching? Should he help her? Sigh. The sermon he had been giving moments ago felt meaningless now. He wanted to run to her, but the crowd was thick, and the cries of panic filled the hall. Whispers ran like fire through the church. "What is happening?" someone asked. Another voice said, "Is she sick?" But no one knew. The confusion was everywhere. The baby had already started coming, and it was clear something urgent was happening. People stepped back, some crying quietly, others holding their children closer. No one moved too close, afraid of making the panic worse. Everyone's eyes were glued to the pastor's daughter, and for the first time, the church was silent, waiting, frozen in horror. The baby was coming, and no one, not even the pastor, knew what to do next.
It had started months before, on a warm Wednesday evening at the church hall. The pastor's daughter sat quietly in the back row, staring at the floor, her heart heavy with worries no one could see. That was when he came over. The popular church worker, always smiling, knelt beside her. "You look troubled today," he said softly. "Tell me, what is on your mind?" She hesitated at first. Who could she tell? Not her parents, not her friends, but something in his calm voice made her feel safe. She spoke, and he listened, really listened. He nodded, never judging, never laughing. Over the next few weeks, he became her confidant. Every problem, every fear, every small joy, she told him, and he comforted her with quiet words and gentle smiles. He seemed perfect, the kind of man everyone admired. Mothers praised him. The pastor himself often said, "He is a good brother, a role model for the youth." But sometimes she noticed small things. The way he leaned closer when nobody was watching. The way he said, "Trust me, it's wiser if we keep some things private," when he promised her to marry her one day. His words sounded harmless, even wise, but a tiny voice in her heart wondered if all the secrecy was right. Still, she trusted him. She wanted to believe in him, in their plans for the future. Every time she saw him helping the children, greeting the elders, leading prayers, her heart swelled with hope. Everyone else loved him, so how could anything be wrong? But at night, lying awake, she began to imagine what could happen if anyone ever discovered their secret. What would her parents think? What would the church say? The thought made her stomach twist with fear. And still, she held on to him, believing in a perfect future that only existed in her dreams. That first night of worry would grow into something far bigger, something that would soon change everything. She had waited for him in the silence of the church garden. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding. The word she had practiced over and over finally escaped her lips. I'm pregnant," she whispered, staring at her feet. For a moment he said nothing. His eyes widened. For the first time, the perfect man everyone admired looked scared. He froze. She thought he would comfort her. She thought he would say everything would be okay. But panic rushed across his face. "You're pregnant?" he said. "How? You can't." "I can't." He struggled to speak. Then suddenly, the truth fell from his mouth. "I have a wife, children, a whole life you didn't know about. You can't keep this child. If you do, you will destroy everything." Her heart shattered. Her chest felt tight. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. You lied to me," she said. "All this time, you promised me." He shook his head. "I never meant for this to happen. You have to end it. It's the only way." "No," she cried. "I can't. This is my child." He stared at her. Fear and disbelief filled his eyes. "You are making a mistake," he said quietly. Then he stepped back. He turned around and he walked away, calmly, as if nothing had happened. A long pause. She stood there, frozen, staring at the empty path he had left behind. The truth hit her like a hammer. The man she trusted, the future she believed in, all gone. She was alone. No one knew the truth, and no one would believe her if she spoke. As the wind brushed her face, one thought echoed again and again. Her life would never be the same. It was a bright Sunday morning when he came to church with his family. His wife held his hand, smiling, while their 2 children skipped happily beside them. The congregation welcomed them warmly. People whispered how perfect they looked, a family full of love, respect, and smiles. She watched from a distance, her chest tightening. The man who had betrayed her now walked proudly among the people who trusted him. No one had the slightest idea what he had done. No one knew about the child growing inside her, or how he had pressured her to end it. His wife came closer, smiling. "Good morning, my sister," she said warmly, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. She smiled as if nothing could ever be wrong in the world. She did not know that her husband had hurt this girl deeply, that the girl she was calling her sister carried a secret that could destroy everything. The pastor's daughter felt a sharp twist of pain in her chest. She wanted to speak, to shout, to tell everyone the truth. But she knew what would happen. The innocent wife, the happy children, the respected man, their lives would crumble. Her words could hurt people who had done nothing wrong. So she stayed quiet. She smiled faintly at the wife's kindness, hiding her anger and hurt behind her calm face. Every laugh, every kind word from the family was like a knife twisting in her heart. She turned her gaze away, looking at the crowd, at the faces that admired him. And in that moment, she made a decision. No one would know. She would protect the innocent, even if it meant living with the pain alone. Her heart ached. Her anger burned quietly. And deep down, she knew the silence she chose would change her life forever. The church was filled with singing and the smell of fresh flowers. Everyone's voices lifted together in praise. But suddenly, the pastor's daughter cried out, clutching her stomach, "Help! It's happening now!" The music stopped. People froze, staring at her. Then panic broke loose. Mothers screamed, children cried, and some men ran forward to hold her up. Others fainted, collapsing to the floor. Ushers pushed through the crowd,
trying to make a path. The sound of hurried footsteps and shocked voices filled the air. She was on her knees, gasping, sweat running down her face. Her hands trembled, pressing against her stomach as the pain grew stronger. "Please, someone," she moaned, her voice cracking. The popular church worker stepped closer, his face showing the tiniest flicker of worry. The pastor rushed down the steps, his heart hammering. "Stay with me, my child. Hold on," he shouted, trying to guide the ushers and congregation to help. People parted, some kneeling, some holding towels, some whispering prayers. "Help! Call a nurse! Someone get water!" a mother yelled. No one had ever seen anything like this in the church before. The baby was coming fast, and the whole congregation was caught in a mix of fear, horror, and disbelief. Through the chaos, she shook her head. "No, no one should know. Not yet, not him," she whispered. She refused to say the father's name, her voice firm despite the pain. Every eye in the church turned toward her, some shouting questions, others waiting in shock. The cries of the newborn cut through the chaos, a tiny, sharp sound that made the mothers weep and some men cover their faces. The pastor's daughter held the baby to her chest, exhausted, trembling, and aware that nothing in her life would ever be the same again. The congregation stood frozen, whispering, staring, some afraid, some angry, some sad. And in the middle of it all, she understood the truth. The world would judge her before anyone understood what had really happened. By the next morning, the church was buzzing with whispers. Word of what had happened spread like wildfire. People couldn't stop talking. "Did you see her? She gave birth in church," one woman whispered to another. "Such shame." Soon the words became sharper. "Prostitute," some muttered. "She sleeps with men outside the church," another said, shaking her head. The rumors traveled faster than anyone could stop them. Even people who had never met her spoke as if they knew the whole story. Her friends, the ones who had played and laughed with her for years, began avoiding her. They waved politely but kept their distance. Some didn't greet her at all. The pastor's daughter felt the sting of betrayal in silence. She had trusted them, and now even they seemed to think she had done something terrible. The elders whispered behind her back. She could hear bits of their conversations when she walked past. "She should be disciplined," said one. "It's a disgrace," muttered another. They shook their heads as if the shame were her fault alone. Even children noticed. Some avoided her in the playground at Sunday school. Others asked their parents questions she couldn't answer. The world she had known, where she felt safe in her church and community, was gone. Heavily, she walked with her head down, holding her baby close, feeling more alone than she ever had. Her heart ached, not only from the pain of giving birth, but from the weight of gossip, judgment, and false assumptions. And yet, no matter how loud the whispers grew, she stayed silent. She would not tell the truth. Not yet. She had learned that sometimes the world only listens to what it wanted to believe, and the world was ready to believe the worst about her. The pastor sat in his study, hands pressed to his face, staring at the floor. The voices of the congregation echoed in his mind, replaying everything they had said about his daughter. Mothers, fathers, elders, all demanding that he act, that he discipline her publicly. "If you protect her, you support sin," someone had shouted during the morning service. Others had nodded, quoting his own sermons back at him, twisting his words like daggers.
He had always taught about truth, about righteousness, about punishment for wrongdoing. But now those words were being thrown at him, aimed at his own child. He wanted to scream, to defend her, to tell everyone the truth. But how could he? The whispers were everywhere. Some people glared at him with suspicion. Others avoided his eyes entirely, as if even looking at him would make them guilty of supporting sin. His heart ached, not from her daughter's actions, but from the helplessness pressing down on him. He could not protect her. He could not stop the gossip, the judgment, the whispered cruelty. He had taught the church how to live, how to see right and wrong, but now he faced a truth he could not control. He thought of her, alone, tired, carrying shame that was not hers to bear. He remembered the way she had smiled faintly at the man's family, hiding her anger and hurt. She had chosen silence for others, even while the world condemned her. The pastor realized something harsh. Being a leader was not about knowing all the answers. It was not about control. Sometimes it meant watching helplessly as those you loved suffered, trapped between duty, judgment, and love. He bowed his head, whispering a prayer no one could hear. His daughter needed him, but he could not give her the protection she deserved. Not in this place, not in this world, not yet. The moment she stepped into the church, she felt their eyes. Choir members whispered behind their hands. Mothers shook their heads and muttered quietly. Elder wives who once smiled at her now stared with disapproval. Every glance cut her like a knife. She should know her place, one woman said to another. Shame on her, muttered another. Even the young girls she had helped at Sunday school avoided her, pretending not to see her as she walked by. Yet, the man's wife, standing nearby with a gentle smile, greeted her warmly. "Good morning, my sister," she said, patting her shoulder. She had no idea what had happened. She only saw her husband as a kind man, a loving father, a perfect church member. The contrast burned. Every kind word from the man's wife, every smile from his children felt like a reminder of betrayal. While she suffered in silence, the people around her judged her for the wrongs of someone else. The hypocrisy was impossible to ignore. She clutched her child to her chest, hiding her tears. She wanted to shout, to scream at the unfairness, to tell the truth and defend herself. But she knew it would accomplish nothing. The world had already made its judgment, and no words could change it. She felt isolation settle deep inside her, heavy and cold. And yet, beneath the hurt and anger, a spark of strength glimmered. She would survive this. She would raise her child with love, and she would keep moving forward, even if the church and the people in it could not see her worth. For now, she would endure. She would bear the weight of their judgment quietly, while the man who had caused it all continued to walk among them, untouchable and praised. It started quietly. One afternoon, a young girl who had always looked up to him sat in the church hall and heard something she wasn't meant to. The popular church worker was speaking in a low voice to a friend. I've made mistakes before, he admitted. There were others, girls I led on. I never told anyone. I thought it would stay hidden. The words struck the girl like lightning. She ran to tell someone she trusted. And slowly, the secret began to spread. Not with shouting or drama, but with whispers, careful conversations, and nervous glances. People began to notice a pattern. Stories matched up. Rumors that had once seemed cruel and baseless suddenly made sense. The same man, praised by the church,
loved by the pastor, admired by everyone, had hurt more than one girl. The realization was quiet but powerful. The pastor's daughter heard the whispers. Her heart lifted slightly, a small spark of hope in the darkness. The truth was coming to light. Finally, people might see what she had been trying to hide, not for fear, but to protect the innocent family. But the vindication came too late. The church had already labeled her. The gossip, the judgment, the cold stares, they had carved marks that could not easily be erased. Some people apologized quietly, their voices low and hesitant. Others still avoided her, unable to see past the labels they had created. She felt a mixture of relief and pain. Relief that the truth was finally known, that she had not been the only victim of his deception. Pain because the damage had already been done. Her life, her reputation, her relationships, all had been affected, some irreparably. In the quiet moments, she understood something bitter but true. Justice had come, but it did not heal all wounds. People had believed the wrong story for too long, and no truth could fully fix the past. The man stopped coming to church as often. Some said he had been transferred quietly, sent away to another congregation where his past would not follow him. Others whispered that he had chosen to live on his own. No one knew for certain, and the church moved on as if nothing had happened. His wife sat quietly in their home, her hands folded on her lap. She had no idea of the full truth, yet she felt a strange emptiness, a shadow over her heart. She had loved her husband and trusted him, and now even her happiness felt hollow. She was innocent, yet somehow wounded by events she could not fully understand. The pastor's daughter continued her life under the weight of labels. People still looked at her differently, whispered when she passed, judged her with eyes sharper than knives. That girl, they called her, and the nickname stuck. The shame did not vanish. The church survived, the congregation continued, but for her, life had changed forever. Yet, beneath the pain, she found strength. She learned to walk with her head held high, to raise her child with love, and to protect herself from the judgment of others. She could not erase the past, but she could survive it. She could be stronger than the whispers, wiser than the lies, and kinder than the betrayal. Some apologized quietly, others ignored the truth completely. Some still treated her coldly, unwilling to forgive or understand. Life went on, as it always does, even after pain. And in the stillness of her thoughts, she repeated a bitter truth she had come to know. One man sinned in private. One woman paid in public. The church survived. The world had judged, punished, and forgiven selectively. The truth had been revealed, but the scars remained. And she, the pastor's daughter, carried them silently, a quiet witness to the cost of trust, betrayal, and society's unyielding gaze.